Hello and welcome to IndiePod, an indie games podcast, your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week, we bring you two awesome indie game news stories before, of course, we hop into News Cram, talk about a bunch of new stuff, some new deals and quick steals, because I can't even speak the words I say every week, and all sorts of other shit. We're going to hop over to God Bless the Crowd to check out a roguelike game that's it's like a nice little cultist simulator. That one will be interesting, and of course answer your listener questions. But before we get into any of that, I would like to introduce myself, Vaughn Hyde, alongside my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average Just Boys. How you doing today, Big Just Boy?
I'm doing well. I also just remembered I need to do something for my video, so if it gets blurry in a second, you know, just bear with me, I guess.
Yeah, I did forget to tell you about that. You want to take off the autofocus thing. Honestly, I just don't even give a shit about it anymore. It's so annoying.
It's so frustrating. Like, the reason why this is frustrating to me is because OBS, every time I open it, they're like, oh, do you want to apply this setting? And I'm like, yes, I want to apply this. And every time you open it, it's like, it has this default. And I'm like, no, why would I apply this setting if I want you to just change it the next time? I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe I'm doing something
it's all
good.
Annoying. Dude, let's be honest. Like, software is not built to be used. It's just built to exist. It's so fucking annoying. Like, there's so many pieces of software that I'm like, why are you the way you are? Why are you doing this to me? I don't get it.
It's tough.
It's so fucking annoying.
What are you going to do? But anyway, I'm doing well. How are you?
Dude, I'm good. Like, speaking of OBS, like, I realized something in the past few weeks that I can't get out of my head. And then it's like, you know, there's like a theory that when you look in a mirror, you actually see somebody, like, you see yourself more attractive than what you actually are. Like, your brain kind of messes with you. And I'm not sure if it's proven or anything, but every now and then I look into the mirror and I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of a cute boy. Like, I get why my wife's with me, whatever. Like, it's fine. I got that juicy ass. Like, it's cool. And then, like, when the second I get on the podcast, I just look at myself in the little reflection thing and I'm like, man, my head is fucking huge, dude. It's gigantic.
I mean, I guess it's the same appeal or not in that regard. The same concept as you listen to your voice for the first time and you're like, who the fuck is that? And you're just so, like, it's such a weird manipulated version of what you hear. Like, maybe it's kind of the same thing of you see yourself in a certain way, and then when it's filmed or like very set in stone, you're like, is that really what I look like? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
That's who I envision myself as.
Like, every time we like record and everything and I edit it together, I'm like, man, like, psh, I'm an ugly boy. Like, what's going on?
I mean, I kind of get the same vibe from it. Like, I've never.
Nah, you're a cute boy. Show your mouth. I'll kiss you. You better watch out, big boy.
I mean, we said it before. I told my niece we're lovers now. It just happens.
Yeah, we're heterosexual life mates. It's just what it's all about. Dude, yeah, there's the old It's a Banger t-shirt from Parallax. Yeah.
I love it.
I honestly, like, it. I totally forgot about most of that merch. Like, I forgot about the ghost formerly known as Vaughn Hyde thing. Yeah. I totally forgot about that until somebody brought it up in my stream last night. And I was like, oh, it was Will. And I was like, wait, holy shit, that was a thing. Where it was like, I was dead. I was a ghost. Until they put Hollow Knight out on consoles.
I think, I forgot even why we mentioned that. I was like, what brought him back? I think someone asked me that the other day, and I was like, I don't fucking know. I barely remember half of, like, the first half of our episodes, or I barely even remember what we talked about the last episode.
Oh, yeah. No, it became a bit because there was a Hollow Knight port coming to consoles, specifically, I believe, the PlayStation 4, and then it got canceled, and I was like, I'm dead. Yeah, I will now be known as the ghost formerly known as Vaughn Hyde. And then when it finally came to PlayStation 4, I was reborn as Vaughn Hyde once again, like a phoenix from the ashes. I fucking forgot about it until last night, and I was like, oh my god, that was a thing. Oh, it's so fucking stupid.
I think it's crazy, like, honestly, that anyone would listen to us early game in this. Like, our quality was much worse. Our like the way we connected was much less because we didn't know each other, so we were still trying to like feel out what conversation was going to look like. I didn't even know what you looked like for like 2 years into the podcast.
Yeah, that is kind of weird, like not knowing what somebody really looks like, because I use like a cartoon picture for a lot of my stuff when I initially did it. Yeah. I had like a friend of mine, Hannah, make like me an icon that was just a cartoon. And I should just say, if I have that anywhere, I try to like make sure I put it on there and credit her. But her name is, well, obviously her name is Hannah, but she's at Hannah V on Twitter. Check her out. She's a really awesome artist and she's got great prices. But yeah, I had that on a bunch of stuff, and then like I knew what you looked like because you added me as a friend on Facebook or something like that, or you were attached to the Parallax Media Facebook. Maybe. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking cyberstalk Josh, and I looked at a bunch of your pictures.
I was gonna say I don't know because you mentioned that a while back. It was like 20 or so episodes ago. It doesn't fucking matter. But like you mentioned something about not knowing me until you saw my Facebook pictures. And I was so confused because I was like, we're connected on Facebook? And I had to look it up and I was like, we are. I was like, when did this happen? Because I never use my Facebook. So I was like, how did this occur? Like, I was very confused.
I don't get it either. It's all fucking weird. It's all so weird. Life is just, it's fucking dumb. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. But speaking of, let's get into our housekeeping. Of course, check out our developer interview this week. It's I don't know how to say this name. It's Adham Jabber. Maybe Jabber. I don't know. I don't fucking know how to say it. Their game is called Headworms. The developer interviews, of course, go live one day after this for patrons, 2 days before for plebes. So that is every Wednesday we have our developer interviews. This one, I actually knew nothing about this game. I had no idea what it is, but I checked out the Steam page. It's about like anxiety. It's very interesting. I'm looking forward to the developer interview. And last week, of course, we had Snoozy Kazoo, the developers behind Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. So make sure you check out all of these developer interviews going live each and every Wednesday.
Before we go, if you are a fan of Amnesia, the game, not the actual status,
the social disorder or whatever, the psychological disorder. If you're a fan of just forgetting everything in your life, you should check out Headworms. It'll get you there.
a lot of people compare it to Amnesia, so I would definitely recommend checking it out from if you're a fan of horror or a fan of that game specifically.
All right, sweet. Speaking of, if you're a fan of things, make sure to head over to the Indie Pod store over on Teespring to pick up t-shirts and stickers. We will soon have new stuff on there. After like next month, we'll have enough to commission some designs, and I actually got control of our PayPal back. So yeah,
we
good
did
for
it.
Me. I got it back. Don't you worry.
We have the locked pit of money that was just sitting in front of us.
Please head over to our YouTube channel. It is IndiePod to watch these episodes. Check out Josh's awesome reviews of Everhood and Omori. Check those out. They're awesome. Head over there, subscribe, like the videos and such. If you're watching this there, please do so. I don't know, click the bell icon. I don't even know if that thing exists anymore, but whatever. Just fucking do it if it does, and it'll give you notifications of when our videos go live and such. Soon to be changed to the Podnot, but I have yet to do so. So just, it's at IndiePod as of the time of this recording. Please leave us reviews on, I don't know why I just said Lee.
Lee!
I was like, Lee!
Is someone named Lee? If you are, please leave us a review.
Yeah. Please leave us a review on any sort of platform, specifically iTunes, because it'll help us out, supposedly, with the algorithm. I still do not know if that's true.
I don't know, whatever, but we'll read it if you, depending on how wacky it is, you might get an interesting shout out. So I will do it.
I often forget to check because like it's pretty sparse on when we get reviews.
Yeah, we don't.
I just totally forget about it. So but I will start checking so we can do it. So make sure to leave us reviews over on iTunes. And thank you so much to all of our amazing patrons at the $3 tier or higher. We have Wilsey, Mixamatosis, aka Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, Chris Penwell, always drinking tea, so much so that he has to write in about it, Josh Nichols, aka Active Josh, and Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much for being patrons. Thank you so much to all of our patrons, and let's talk about some of the indie games we are playing. Big Josh Boy, you are playing Loop Hero by 4 quarters. Tell me about it, tell me why you're loving it, and why 500,000 people have also purchased this game.
Because this game's good. It's just good. This is
okay.
So my favorite quote of this, and I forget where I heard of it, but it's someone wrote an article, and I really loved the headline tag of this, and it's Loop Hero is about not the hero, the plight of the hero, and you controlling them, but it's you controlling the chaos of the world around them. And I love this idea because it's essentially what you're doing. Loop Hero is a idle game. It is very much you don't really do much as far as the combat or your actions as the hero. You're literally in just a grid that is, you could think of it as a box. Usually it's got a little bit of edges to it and whatnot, doesn't matter, but it's you going in a square type object trajectory, and you're just going in a big loop around that space. And as you're doing that, there will be monsters that are on this loop, and your character will fight them. And they'll just go into combat, and they'll pick a random enemy. If there's multiple ones, they'll pick a random one, and they'll attack. The enemies will attack you. Basic tropes of like having health, having damage, having defense, whatever. So you're not controlling any of that. What you are controlling, though, is as you are fighting these random enemies, you start off very basic. Every time you go into a run, it is clean slate, everything is the same. There's a few little minor things, but that doesn't matter. Like there's, the difference of roguelite of slight progression changes. But for the most part, you always start the same. You're just a character with nothing, your basic level. You just go in, you fight some baddies. But every time you fight them, you then get random either equipment or cards. And the cards, a lot of people see, card games and they get turned off because it's like, I don't like card games. Like the one thing I would think about this with is,
but not you, dude.
Not me. You're
just like the card games.
The minute you're like, so you got card game mechanics?
You said there's cards in this game?
You said there's cards in this game? Are you speaking my language? And so if the card game mechanics isn't your thing, I would reconsider it because it's very light into this play. What it means is you have a deck of either 7 to 12 cards, and each one of these cards you're basically choosing before you ever go on a run. And what those cards represent is you'll randomly be given a few cards of that type, that 7 to 12, whatever it is. You can have as many of those types as you play through. It doesn't just equate to one card per, that specific. Like you can have multiple of the same card. I don't know why that took me so long to think of the words to get that out. But anyway, so those equate to different things that you place on that grid, that square, object, right? So you'll get either like a vampire mansion or a spider cocoon or a forest or a mountain, and you get to place them all throughout that little map that you have. Based on that, you'll either then start creating monsters in the world, or you'll create different things. Like with the mountains, you get 2 additional health or 5 additional health for each one that's placed and each one it's next to. But the interesting thing is there's like a pro con to each of these. Like you're adding more, viciousness to the world or more dangers to the world. So if you create a mountain and you put too many together, then harpies show up because they're at the top of that mountain peak. And so then every spawn, every day, which there's like a little countdown of days in between the game, as well as those loops that you're going on, more monsters will spawn and things will change. There's a number of different metrics that you go into, or mechanics that you go into based on that day progression, which is really cool because it's as you're placing these things and as you're defeating more monsters, you're then creating more tiles for more monsters to spawn, and they're getting stronger, and it's constantly replaying, and you're just going through that loop and getting different items, getting different resources. And the whole reason for this, the background of this game, is that you are this hero who has suddenly gone into this world, and this evil like being, this lich type monster, has cast the world into darkness and into this repetitive loop where people are just playing out the same thing, and they're losing their memories in between this. They don't know what's happening. They're kind of trying to make sense of the world around them. And
it's like some Groundhog Day shit.
Kind
like
of,
Palm
yeah.
Springs, but instead they have to give away their memories.
Yeah, kind of. So you're then outside of these loops, this play, each time you come back and you're building a town, and you're trying to, with the resources that you collected, build, these farms or these ranches or whatever you might have, like different areas where you'll have like a blacksmith or something like that. And each of those, as you build, will create either a new class for you to play. So there's 3 different classes. There's a warrior, there's a rogue, and there's a necromancer, all with their own unique abilities. And then you also have things like different cards or locations that you'll unlock. So, as you keep playing, as you beat different versions, because there's acts in this game, there's 4 different acts. And as you beat those, things will get harder, and there will be more mechanics added and new cards that you unlock, as well as anytime you are unlocking these different buildings in your town, you then have the ability to get these new cards, which just equate to new things that you can put on the map, new dangers, new abilities. Like there's a specific like storm castle. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but it's like you place it, and anywhere in a line, if it's on that quadrant in that space, it'll just lightning will strike random enemies as well as you. Like it's like 2 random targets will get hit. And so it's very, you have to use different cards or different types of tiles with those characters that you play, and find out, like what's best, how do I level this character, what perks do I choose. And each time it's the same thing, but very much different, because the items you get are very randomized. And it's just a perfect like podcast game. It is very much like, I love this game because I have a lot of things that I do just in, when I like play games at the end of the day, and I still have things that I want to complete. Like the developer interviews I do. This is a perfect game where I listen to the developer interviews while I'm editing, and also play this on the side, because it's very much a kind of sit there and let it do its thing. And then every so often you like change your gear, or you'll place different cards down, and there's like a planning phase and an adventure phase where you can just have it constantly walking, or you just right click and it's like, oh, you're in planning phase, and everything stops, and then you can build things and do what you want. So if you're listening to a podcast and then, or doing something, and then you're like, oh, I need to focus on this, you just click into planning phase and then go and, go back and forth. So like, I love it as far as that goes, but even still, like, it's still a game where it's very much you can kind of half like pay attention, or you could just be fully invested and like watch as you're doing it. I don't know. The music is great. The visuals to it are really great. I love the idea of this being thrown into this world and like trying to recollect memories. And it's very grindy. I can see that this would be probably something that I could sink a good amount of time into, because it can be hard as you get into those later acts, and understanding like the different characters takes time and whatnot, and building those outside towns obviously is going to take a lot because of the resources you have to collect. But I've enjoyed it a lot, even with only putting in like 5 or 6 hours so far. It's definitely one that I think I will keep with, just because it is very much that podcast game. So it's a game that I can play kind of like, I love watching streams and also playing this game at the same time, very much so, because it's just like I get to go back and forth. It's not something that I need to be fully invested in.
You don't have to pay 100% of attention. You can give it like 40% attention, just pop in every now and then. Yeah,
which might not be for everyone, but I think, like, obviously it's been shown that a lot of people seem to enjoy this, or at least they're buying it. So like, I don't know that it's that they enjoy it, but like a lot of people are giving it a chance, and I think they'll enjoy it. From what I've heard of others talk about it, they seem to be into it. I think it's definitely, if you're into like, the roguelike idea, it takes a lot of elements from different genres of games and uses a lot of very good pieces of them to build this kind of idle game that's not really idle.
Okay. When you get through these acts, do you like, okay, what is the fail state of the game? I'm assuming your character can die, right?
Yeah. So that's a good point. You're going through this loop, and at any time you can retreat back to your camp. Now,
Okay.
there's a difference because if you're on the map and you're not near your campfire where you just started, and this is a big thing that a lot of people screw up with, you can leave and take 100% of your resources back, but only if you get back to the start of the loop and leave at that point. If you leave at any other point, 60% of resources. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I've heard multiple people on like podcasts get it wrong. And also a buddy of mine who was playing said the same thing of like, oh, what's the point of, leaving
getting
at any time?
All the way back to your campfire if you could just leave whenever.
Yeah, whenever. And I'm like, well, because you get more resources kind of a thing.
Yeah,
but
okay.
it's very much so that idea of like, if you can't make it because you look at your character and you're like, I'm at 100 health and there's a ton of people who are going to hit me for about that much, and like I'm not going to make it, you can leave and take that 60%, because if you die, you only get to take 33% of your resources back. So it's
it's like a value proposition.
It's yeah. It's very much, can I make it? Okay, I can't. I'm going to just leave and, cut my losses, right?
Okay.
But
that's pretty cool.
The state of the game, the reason you're doing this loop is you're constantly placing items. And what another mechanic that people get wrong is they think, oh, you just keep going on loops and then eventually a boss shows. It's not the case at all. There is a little indicator in the left-hand side of your game that shows a green bar ticking up to a certain point where you have a boss indicator. And what it means is as you're placing things on the map, that will grow. And if you have a number of items that are in that world, then the boss appears. And the notion behind it, I think, is basically that you're building the town back to a full state, or that world back to a full state, where the enemy is then summoned to try and go through that loop of resetting everything, right?
That's really cool. So you said this has like acts. If let's say I get through Act 1 or Act 2, then I die, do I have to do them both again?
No, you can and I love this because very much it is a grindy game, but I have gotten Act 2 unlocked, but it is at a point where I don't feel ready to play it, just because I don't understand like what's the best thing to do in the game yet, or how to build up my character to make sure that they're the best that they can be, because there's different stats and things specific to a character, and I'm still like in that learning phase and trying to get good. So I've just been redoing Act 1 a bunch because I just want to. But at any point I can switch over to either of those acts with either character that I've unlocked.
Okay, that's really nice, because I was kind of worried that, like, me, of course, I'm more of the fan of, like, the roguelite than roguelike, so once I finish something, I don't want to have to do it all over again.
Yeah,
so
no.
I like that if you get through Act 1, you don't have to consistently do it if you don't want to.
Yeah, you ultimately will, and like I said, fighting the boss, you'll be able to fight them over and over again in Act 1, Act 2, whatever act you're in. But like ultimately you'll redo it, but you don't have to fight the boss. You could play it, get to a certain point because of that bar that I mentioned of like placing so many items on the map will summon them. Just stop placing things and just let that loop keep going, and then just keep putting new gear on your character to make them stronger and to be able to fight in that loop. And then when you're ready, be like, okay, I've gotten enough resources, because there is a cap. You can only get so many resources in a run. And then you say like, okay, I'm going to retreat, go back to my camp and do it again. Kind of a thing.
That's cool. I honestly, I'm kind of blown away by how cool Loop Hero looks. Like, I really, really enjoy so much of this game. And honestly, like, when initially looking at it, when it was first shown during the Game Awards, I was not into it. I was like, this doesn't seem like my kind of game. Like, I'm not into, like, the strategy roguelike stuff. But now, having you explain it to me and hearing about this game, it sounds so cool. I do want to ask you about like the different classes. Have you unlocked all of them? Is it like a difficult thing to do?
No, not at all. So it's very much just a resources thing. So you collect resources and you buy a new piece of a town, and based on those pieces, and it'll give you an indicator of like unlocks X class. And so I've unlocked the other two classes, which are the rogue and the necromancer, and it's really just play the game and eventually you'll have resources to do it.
Okay, that's really cool. I did want to ask, like, I'm assuming the big changes between, like, okay, so what are the changes between these characters? I would assume the way that you interact with them, the big change would be that their damage and stuff scales based on different statistics, so you use different types of gear. But other than that, what exactly is the difference between them, and why would you want to play a different character?
Yeah, so I'll go through this.
Because you don't actually have like combat or anything.
Yeah, I'll try to go through this a little bit quick because I don't want to say for sure XYZ, because I'm also like, as acts grow, new mechanics are added, so there might be things that are different.
Okay.
But right now, as far as Act 1 and Act 2, what happens is each character has their own specifics, like their stats and whatnot. The necromancer is like totally different, but like thinking of like the warrior and the assassin, the rogue, you have locked off items. So there's different that gear that you can place on, right? So with the warrior, you can place a sword, you can place a shield, you can place armor and shoes. But with the assassin, you can't place a shield, and instead you have 2 weapons. So you do more damage, but you're less tanky, right? And so you play into that, and you also have different, as you're playing each one of these loops, you will unlock in your overworld town a specific area that lets you then start leveling characters with experience and giving like a skill point or a perk that you get to choose. And they all have their own special, unique perks that you can use to make your build a little bit different. So like with that, it's more... the rogue is just stronger and it is more likely to go into a crit build, whereas the warrior is more of like tanky health regen, vampirism, which is like lifesteal. And then you have the necromancer, who is totally different, can only put on like a necklace, 2 rings, and a like a spell book he basically has instead of
typically like sorcerers, magic characters, they can't really they can't even put on like medium armor kind of a thing.
Right. So very much a glass cannon type of approach, but you're also constantly like every time you start, you summon zombies or skeleton warriors.
That's cool.
And so each one of those phases of combat is your character just summoning things instead. And so you use this magic HP, which is like a totally different thing, which is like a giant shield at the start of each battle, and that's your HP that doesn't like regen based on normal regen factors. But then you also have
like temporary hit points,
right,
in D&D.
And it restarts up every combat. But you have that, and then you also have skeleton, the level, which is how strong your skeletons are. And then you have quality, which is a more likely chance that you will get a rare type of skeleton. So you have like the normal, just like, I'm a skull and bones with a sword. But then you also have like an assassin type. You have a tank type. You have,
that's cool.
I think there was another type, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but like the quality is based on how likely you are to get a different version rather than just like the normal skeleton. So there's a lot of like intricacies with it. And then you have the ability to increase max skeletons that you can summon. There's a lot that goes into it. I won't go any more deeper than that because it might change within the acts. Because other effects, like the enemies you fight, like get new abilities, the same ones that you were fighting before as acts go up, and there's differences between that. But from what I've played so far, those are like the main differences I've seen with the classes.
This game looks so cool. What are you playing it on? Did you pick it up on Steam? Did you buy it for like $15 or?
Yeah, I picked it up on Steam. I paid I think it was like 12 something because it was on sale for the first
week, like 10% off thing.
Yeah, and right now I think it's the sale is over and it's back at $15. But I think it's still worth it. I think if you're into a game that's a little bit grindy, and you want, kind of that I don't want to say comfort food, but it's very much a like, it's casual, not casual. Like you really need to think about what you're doing and you need to learn and get better in that regards of like a knowledge thing, but it's not like a mechanically intensive thing. Like it is an idler, I think then it's definitely something to look into.
All right. And speaking of roguelike games, you're also playing the EverTried demo. This is something that we talked about when it was back on Kickstarter, I think. We covered it in God Bless the Crowd. But tell me your thoughts on the demo.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to, so it's Danilo Domingues and Lunic Games. I thought it was interesting. We also, transparency, we have an interview developer in the works that will be coming out with this team, which I'm excited for because we talked about it a while back and I was kind of like, oh, this seems interesting. And I just wanted to check it out because they honestly, at the end, they gave me like can you get to the end of it? Kind of like a not really like a challenge, but just being like, oh, can you do it? Because it's one of the things of people going through it. In the full game, there's going to be 50 levels that you have to go through. This one is only 15, and I did make it. And I wanted to shout out kind of my thoughts and to just let people know that this is a thing. still. But I really enjoyed it. It very much is similar to like kind of like Into the Breach, but instead of knowing what they're going to do next, you kind of just have to take that approach. It's very much a turn-based of like you move and then they move, you move, they move right after, and you have to understand like the different types of characters and what they do. You only have the ability to be hit 3 times throughout this, otherwise you die completely. So it is very much you need to think about it, but they do it in a way where if you move fast enough, you have this energy bar that it's called focus. And so you're trying to keep that focus high enough because there's certain things that like certain abilities will play into that. In the demo, I really didn't see that. And like at first I was really trying to push myself to always keep that bar high enough. But then I was like, this really doesn't do anything for me unless I have specific abilities with it. And I didn't see anything that really pushed me to keep that up. So it was more like, all right, let me just learn this first and then I'll get better and it'll just kind of stick. Like as you understand the character's movements, you then just get faster by default, which I think was their intention anyway. So I think it was a smart decision. But it was kind of annoying in the later levels because in that last 5 levels, I was like, man, I keep dying on this level 14 or level 13. And I was like, I just need to beat this so that I could say I did it kind of a thing. But I really enjoyed it because then you get to the last level and you had this boss, which was, I don't think the boss was I felt like the level 13, 14 of dealing with just being overwhelmed by so many characters as opposed to a big boss didn't seem as like, it was kind of anticlimactic. I don't want to say that because there was a lot of like, I was on my toes because I was like, okay, I'm finally at the boss. I got to make sure I do this because otherwise I have to redo the whole set.
But the boss was far less difficult than actually getting to it.
Far less difficult because it was more management of just understanding, okay, where's his attack going? Where is he going? Okay, just move to wherever. Like it was, and I think it was done in a good way because I don't think it would make sense for them to be like unfair and be like, there's nowhere for you to go. You're just gonna die kind of a thing. So I think it makes sense, but it was much more chaotic when you have like 10 people on the map and you're like looking at one of the characters and you're like, haha, you can't hit me. And then like someone from on the other side of the screen just like flies at you and you're like, damn, should have been paying attention kind of a thing.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's kind of like there's an energy to the other, like keeping track of like 10 different enemies versus fighting one big one. Sure, it'll hit you harder, but you know where it is. Like playing all these Souls-like games on my like Twitch channel has kind of got me into that, where it's like bosses are fun. They're like way harder than standard enemies, but standard enemies, like the problem with them is the sheer amount.
Yeah, they can overwhelm you.
Yeah. Okay.
So
EverTried has always seemed really cool. I loved it when it was back on Kickstarter. And I enjoyed like the art style a lot. I believe I said it wasn't really a game for me just because that's.
I don't think it would be for you. I do not think so. Based on me playing this, it was a good challenge. Like I definitely did it. It didn't take me too insanely long. It was like an hour or so that I played around with it until I got through that end part. But then I think about that and then being like, oh, there would be 35 extra levels that I would have to go through. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But like this very much was a demo. This was before there's a lot of changes that are coming through. Like I'm interested to see, because there's also like skill leveling that wasn't in the demo, apparently, the abilities that you get. I didn't feel that they were as needed a lot of the time. Like there weren't many abilities where I was like, this is a game changer. Like this is going to help me get through. Like most of it, I was just using the basic attack of running through, and you just need to know basic placement. But I do think that that progression or that skill change up of them saying in the interview that like as you play, those skills will turn into something possibly completely different and just become much better. I'm very much excited to see what those enemies change into with the different worlds. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to them and definitely say, check out the demo, or at least, keep an eye on their Twitter to see when they officially come out. I wish they would create a Steam page. I think that's the one recommendation I'd give.
I know, that's what I was just looking for. I was like, where's this fucking shit on Steam, bro?
Yeah, and they said they wanted to create, like when I was talking to them in the interview developer, or the interview, They were saying
you've said interview developer like 5 times.
A bunch of times. I just put those two words and I just like slap them together and I'm like, that's probably it. But in that interview, I mentioned that something about that of like, where can they go? And they were like, oh, we're gonna create a page sooner. And I'm like, start the wish list now, man. You gotta, because I want to, you know, push people to a specific place, but right now it's really just their Twitter to follow because they're doing updates there.
I mean, plus, like, when you look up the game, I imagine there are a decent amount of people when they look up the game and the only thing that comes up is, like, a bunch of news articles and Kickstarter. They're just like, I don't know if I want to do that. Versus Steam, it's like, it's so much easier to follow because, of course, like we've talked about in God Bless the Crowd before, Kickstarter just has such a, like, negative taste in most people's mouths. Like, they don't even have to have like invested in a campaign and not gotten what they wanted. It's just the buzz around Kickstarter has done that to people. So like if they made a Steam page, I feel like it would definitely bring in a lot more people to check out EverTried. But their updates over on Twitter are really, really nice. I actually, we follow them. I make sure I retweet a lot of their stuff, so make sure to follow them and us at IndiePod over on Twitter. But EverTried looks dope as shit.
And the one last thing that I'll mention, and just a little inside baseball that I didn't know until talking with them, was about their Kickstarter, because I had asked them like, oh, where do you want me to reference that you can get their demo? And they were like, oh, over on Game Jolt, a specific website. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I had said the Kickstarter, and they're like, oh, no, because it's an older build. And apparently when a Kickstarter, like when that timer countdown of that month or whatever they put in there, once that like hits and ends, you cannot update that page at all.
That blows.
Yeah, because they mentioned it and I noticed it. They hit a stretch goal that is not referenced in that Kickstarter page just because they didn't have time to update it because it was very close to the end when they hit it. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like I never really thought about it but like there's an obvious like why Kickstarter does that, and I get it, but it is a little interesting that you can't change that page.
Yeah, they do it so people can't be like, no, you didn't, that's not what that tier was for, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Like, just to keep people from doing sketchy shit. I guess there is, like, the updates portion of the Kickstarter pages, but that's still, not like, it is kind of weird.
Then you have to do that research, and, like, the onus is on the investor or the person to be like, oh, let me dig deeper, and it's like, most people are going to look at the Kickstarter, that immediate page, and be like, did I get what I want or did I not? If not, I might just, you know what? Meh, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah, this is why they need a Steam page. Just make it so much easier, but whatever. For games that I'm playing this week, I don't have anything on the dock because I've spent most of this week just kind of trying to hang out with my wife. We've been rewatching a lot of the MCU movies. Like, we're rewatching them in the timeline order. So we started with like Captain America, the first Avenger, and then went to like Captain Marvel and stuff. So it's actually kind of weird to see the difference in quality between movies because certain ones came out after others but are actually in the timeline earlier. So it's just like, this movie looks better than this one, but I have to watch it later. It's very odd. It's like watching Guardians 1 and 2 and then last night. So I watched Guardians 1, watched Guardians 2, and then watched Avengers Age of Ultron. And I was like, ooh, the two Guardians movies, they're just so much better than Age of Ultron. But whatever. So it's kind of weird, but I've been doing that. And while I was doing so, I watched the two Thor movies, Thor and Thor the Dark World. I watched Thor Ragnarok before it, but that's just because it's a great movie. And it got me really, like, hankering to play something in, like, Norse mythology. And I thought about picking up Valheim, but I was like, I know I'm not going to be able to invest as much time into that game as I really will want to. So instead, I'll just replay God of War, which is, like, a 30-hour game in itself, which is hilarious. But I was like, you know what? I want to chill. I want to play some God of War. I want to see if I missed anything. I want to fight the Valkyries, whatever. So I started New Game Plus in God of War, and it's really honestly weird to hop in New Game Plus after like an entire year or more of this game being out and me not having played it, because I'm like, I don't know what any of my abilities do. And then while like going through everything, I got to the point where like you get Mimir and he's just chilling on your belt. And yesterday I thought about it and I was like, man, his existence fucking sucks. Because he was, like, that's kind of his whole story. is that he, like, Odin blames him for all the stuff that goes on with the Vanir gods and stuff. And so he attaches him, like, he tortures him, he just traps him in that tree, you cut off his head, you reanimate it and stuff, but then his head is placed on Kratos' belt. And the other day I was just like, I went to Valheim, I think it's what it's called, and he was talking about how it's like all fire and brimstone and it smells like fire and brimstone. And I was like, dude, you know what I didn't even think about? Fucking Mimir is just being forced to suck in Kratos' farts straight from the tailpipe, like, for a solid, like, several days.
Yeah, that's all he gets. He's just
literally, he's sitting there fucking kissing Kratos' butthole, and he can't even do anything about it. He's just like, hey, want to hear a story about Odin being a dickhead for the 25th time? As he's, like, fucking just existing in stench hell.
Yeah, that stink and that whiplash of constantly, like...
Yeah. Every time Kratos moves, he's just like, stop! Ah!
Like, think about him in battle. He must be just, like, slapping between his cheeks and his thigh. Yeah, dude. Of, like, constantly.
He's like, God, I wish you weren't so thick. Jesus. But that's what I've been playing. Been replaying God of War, so I haven't had much time to play some indie games. I did play a little bit more of Project Gorgon. It's an MMO in early access. It's like an indie MMO from the people who made, I believe, like EverQuest 2, some of the people who did that, like Star Trek Online and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I went back to it. It's still in early access. Honestly, returning to it, I initially bought it and played it probably actually like 2 years ago. It was very early on in IndiePod that I picked it up. And returning to it, I'm just not super impressed with what they've done within that amount of time. Right. Like, I was creating a new character and realized that, like, there's maybe... I chose one race where I was like, okay, cool, I want to make a cat girl. So I chose the cat race, and then... You can choose, like, 2 different colors for your fur, but you can't change the face of your character. So you just look, and it just got really obnoxious where I was like, why would you add in an entirely new race but have 0 customization options for that race? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I didn't play a whole lot of it. I just kind of hopped into it real quick. I'm hoping that eventually they pour some more time into it and maybe it gets a little bit more content. But currently, it's pretty content light from what I would... I mean, it's got a lot to do, but it's content light for what I was looking for, at least from, like, character creation, like, starting off. So I don't think it's very good for new players. But if you are, like, heavily invested in... I imagine the shit they put out is pretty cool. Like, new races and stuff. You could do quests, so now you can play as a fairy, which is kind of interesting. And I think they're adding a dwarf race soon. So, I don't know. It's weird. I hopped into it for probably like an hour or 2, and I was like, I'm just not feeling this right now. It's just, like, I enjoy the skills-based MMO trope. I really like that. It's very similar to Elder Scrolls Online in that sense. Mm-hmm. But it's just... It's super rough. Oh, and I realized it's kind of weird. So you know how you have like character portraits that are like up in like the corner and stuff? Yeah. This one has an updating one, so while you're doing stuff, your character's face like does different movements and stuff. Oh. But I realized if I walk forward, my character looks normal, but if I walk backward, it scrunches up their face, and it starts to, like, it's like a black hole is just swallowing their face from the inside, and their face is just like, anytime I just make my character walk backwards. So it totally threw me off, because you're like, when you're running, it'll be like this, and then when you walk backwards, their face is just like, it's so fucking weird.
Seems like something they would have caught by now.
You would think so, but I have no idea. Like, I don't know what they're doing with that game. It's interesting. It's in early access, so all of this can be explained by, like, it's not fucking done, but...
Yeah, of course.
It's rough. It's rough. But, speaking of some rough times, let's talk about our main news stories. Our first one over on IGN, this one by Jordan Oleman. It is Rust developers expecting large amount of data loss following server fire. Rust developers Facepunch Studios has just said that it's expecting a large amount of data loss after a fire burst out at a data center that held many of the game's EU servers. The news came in a tweet from the official Rust account earlier today, as the studio learned that a blaze had broken out at the OVH Cloud data center in Strasbourg, France. I don't know how to fucking say that. 25 of our EU servers remain offline due to a fire at OVH data center in the early hours of the morning, the statement reads. Unfortunately, the fire destroyed SBG2 building. I'm assuming that's an actual building. I don't know. We're expecting a large amount of data loss across the affected servers. According to a statement from OVH Cloud, the fire broke out at 12:47 a.m. local time on March 10th. The fire was contained several hours later, and OVH Cloud has confirmed that no one has been harmed. This has been updated since, saying that we've confirmed a total loss of the affected EU servers during the OVH data center fire. We're now expecting replacing the affected... we're now exploring replacing the affected servers. Data will be unable to be restored. Footage of the destroyed data center has been seen here, which is like a link, courtesy of the Microsoft's Kevin Boogmont. I don't know how to say that. Rust account later confirmed that data will be unable to be restored after assessing the total loss of the EU server affected by the fire. Although it remains unclear how many players will be affected by this event, the studio is currently exploring how it can replace the servers that have been affected by the fire. This totally blows for them. Now, I mean, it's not something you really think about when you play online games, is that servers actually have to be maintained and updated to keep this game going. Like, there are certain games that exist in almost perpetuity, like fucking DC Universe Online has been going for, like, I would say probably like 10 to 15 years now. And you don't really think about the actual real-world cost of keeping that game on the internet. But this is kind of the fucked up shit that happens is like, through no fault of their own, as far as I know, Facepunch Studios is going to have to replace these servers, and like a large amount of their players are going to lose what I assume is like, they could possibly have lost their world that they had put a shit ton of time into. Granted, I'm assuming they have private servers similar to a lot of these kind of survival craft games, but they may have lost something that they put a shitload of time into because of a random act of like fucking, it's not even like, I wouldn't even say like a random act of injustice or anything. It's just bad luck.
Yeah, God, it is sad. It is sad because it's something that wasn't like them just doing something stupid, right? This is like a natural disaster kind of a thing. This is it's
an act of God is what an insurance company would call it.
Yeah.
I'm literally not even joking.
No, I know.
That's actually when you make insurance claims that have no actual, like, you could not have prevented it, it's no one's fault, they call it an act of God.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. I love seeing how people can be so shitty when you look at like comments and Twitter and things like that. So this is obviously a big impact, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who are upset because they have content or like, you know, information that is lost from their side as a player, and it sucks, dude. Don't get me wrong. Like, but at the same time, there's people who literally look at this specifically and will say, how could you do this? You better do something to make this right by us, the people. And you're like, I don't know that that's the right reaction immediately after a studio gets hit so hard by losing all this. And granted, like, okay, the concept is like, you see people who are yelling at them and like, why didn't you have a backup? And they're like, the backup was in that area. The backups
we had a backup, we just didn't have it separate from the other servers, kind of a deal.
And so, and like, because, you know, you think of, when you're thinking of like backing that up, you're thinking of, oh, because I might need something, that server might crash or whatever. Something might get corrupt. You don't always just plan for a giant wildfire inside your, you know, space. Like, which granted, maybe they will now, But like, why would you just assume that everyone does that, especially if it's a smaller studio than someone like a Nintendo, a PlayStation, a Sony, a Microsoft, right? Like they don't have the amount of time, resources, money to just be like, we need a backup server here, and we need all this stuff. Like you just can't do that, right? Yeah. It doesn't make
even
sense.
My PC backup, like my PC's right there, my backup's right there. It's
right. Yeah,
if
fire
anything
happens,
happened to
it's
this
gone.
Desk, it would be fucking dead.
It's
like
gone.
everything would be dead.
And so I just want to say, first off, have a little bit of humility when you think about this situation, but also, this is just a shitty time for both the developers and for the people going through it. But I don't know that there's a lot you could say other than next time maybe have servers in different locations, but no one fucking...
I feel so bad that in my head I was like, sucks to suck.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of like, that is the reaction that you're like, well, get fucked, But
yeah, you're like, sorry, that sucks. Like, I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah, but like it's seriously, it's awful. I don't know that there's much to say on it, like other than, hopefully they get it up and running and they give some, like, there's ways that they could find, to make amends to some of the people who got screwed over, give them some kind of bonus of in-game whatever it is, to be like, hey, sorry, but like, fire. Like, what do you say? Like,
you're like, I'm sorry that the deity that currently presides over this realm decided that you don't get to play Rust anymore, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's not my fault.
So it is what it is. I mean, everyone's gonna have their own opinion on it, but I just think it sucks.
No, I mean, that's a great point to bring up, though, is that, like, in situations like these where it's not necessarily anyone's fault, as far as we know, granted,
right, of course,
maybe this building wasn't up to code, like, all sorts of stuff, but as far as we know currently, we all just need to kind of take a step back and be like, how would you feel if this happened to you? Like, it's not your fault. It's kind of like if your job issued you equipment and then your apartment flooded or something and they're like, you have to pay for that. You're like, in what world should I have to, like, I understand that it was my responsibility, but also the fucking earth hates me. Like, I don't understand kind of a deal. So yeah, just come to this with a little bit of concern. Think about if it was you, like, how would you feel about it in this scenario? Just chill for a second. And anytime this kind of stuff happens, because shit happens, like real world stuff happens to video games that's nobody's fault. It's just like an accident kind of a deal. Yep. Like, I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call it an accident. It's just like a happenstance. Just randomly shit happens. So that blows. True. But let's talk about the community itself actually helping out each other. This one is over on GameSpot. It is written by Jeremy Winslow, and it is Valheim Wholesome Community establishes body recovery squad to retrieve lost items. Valheim players are combating the frustration of losing everything after death by establishing and dispatching a body recovery squad that ventures out to retrieve all lost items. The body recovery squad was recently set up through a dedicated Discord server. Their goal is for community members or operators, that's what they call themselves, to aid players in recollecting everything they lost after dying. This is done by players joining the server, entering a channel called it's like hashtag assistance application. And pressing the SOS button. Once the message has been received, an operator will get in touch with that player in question to organize and execute the item recovery effort. There are no stipulations for the assistance, and it doesn't matter where a player's tombstone is located. The body recovery squad, once mobilized, will complete the mission at all costs. I love how serious this is, by the way. It's so hilarious. Yeah. Players aren't required to compensate the body recovery squad. The group does it all for free. The body recovery squad founder, Lucas, a Rim Janer, detailed the rationale behind the group in a brief interview with Eurogamer. After nearly After nearly encountering a similar fate, losing everything when battling a death skeeto, but being lucky enough to have a portal close by, Lucas thought of the other players who might not escape death and are forced to start over. This thought caused him to establish the Body Recovery Squad as a way to help out other players. That single moment, losing everything, can be so detrimental to players and has caused some to quit playing the game entirely, Lucas said. I thought to myself, what if it didn't have to be this way? What if there was a lifeline out there that helped players keep going? The Body Recovery Squad currently has 15 operators willing to assist players less fortunate. The number is likely to grow, said Lucas. He said that he received 50 new operator applications this week through the Body Recovery Squad. Lucas is hoping to foster a great community. We aren't doing this to make money. We're doing this because we aren't doing this because we want some reward. We are doing this because we want to help foster a great community, Lucas said. It has been such a pleasure so far being able to help other players and give them a lifeline when they get into trouble.
This is a tough one for you.
Any Valheim player can sign up to become an operator through a Google form, though the Body Recovery Squad is currently no longer accepting applications at this time. I love how, this seems so serious.
Yeah.
It's such a wonky thing to do, but it seems like such a serious thing where you have to apply for it and they will recover your items at any cost to them. It's no cost is too little kind of a deal. They will get your items back is so awesome. I fucking love this. Communities that do this kind of shit is awesome. And also this game is in early access, which I think is something that should be, I don't know, these people are investing in building a community for these developers, essentially. They're we are doing, I don't want to say a lot of the heavy lifting, because they aren't, because the developers are, of course, building the game and everything,
right.
But they are creating a community and keeping people invested in this game. And I think it would be so cool there are no need required to do this, but it would be so cool if the Valheim developers actually put something in the game, kind of not necessarily as a reward, but immortalizing the operators who helped people retrieve their items. Mm-hmm. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. So Big Josh Boy, what do you think about this news story?
It is definitely interesting because I've mentioned a couple of times, I have friends who are very much into this game. They are fanatics about this. Mm-hmm. And I love it because, it's cool to see people get so invested in it and so passionate about something, especially because it's, you mentioned it, an early access game, which having this much of hype for it and the way they talk about it and how much it seems like a finished product, but it's not even there yet, is really cool.
You can fucking turn a bird into a boat in the game because of a weird ass glitch. I've seen so many news stories that's just this game's janky as fuck.
Yeah, which is, it adds to that charm though, in a lot of ways. But I think it's so cool because I've exactly. Working as intended. I think it's so cool because I hear them all the time where they'll say something like, "Oh, we're over at this area, we have to get back, oh, don't die." It's a very serious thing because you die and you're stuck there if you can't get back, kind of a thing. Which I think is great. I think it is great because they mentioned it in the article, but those are game killers. Those are definitely, you have a bad experience, a rough experience because you're doing what the game is trying to lead you to do, which is explore, but then you explore too much and then you pay the consequence of just being oh, well, I guess I lose and I can't do anything now. That sucks, right? So this is a weird safety feature of, a group of people being really cool and being you know what? We're going to make it so you don't have that moment. It's great.
Yeah, I've had it happen in Ark before where I've died in an area that I could not get back to, and I was just you know what? That was all my good shit. I'm just not even gonna fuck with it. It totally sucks. And yeah, like you said, it's definitely a game quitter. So I think it's amazing that the players are taking the onus and they're you know what? This game is amazing and we want people to enjoy it the way that we have enjoyed it. So we are actually gonna make it a little bit more accessible. We're going to invest our time into helping you collect your items, which is just so cool.
Right.
I'm kind of wondering how exactly a lot of this works. Like, it says you do like the SOS button and stuff, but I want to know how the like application goes and everything, how they deem you worthy of becoming an operator, because you'd assume you have to be like a high level, well-geared player to do this.
That's honestly probably why they stopped accepting applications, because it's a lot of, you know, trying to vet someone who's coming on board and be like, okay, what is your account? Are you a good person? Like, I don't even know how you would vet that of like, are you really going to do this? Like, are you invested in the idea of at any cost, right?
Yeah, at any cost to you kind of a deal. So I think it's amazing. This shit's so cool. Fuck yeah, this community. I'll be honest, I don't talk about every Valheim story, because if I did, this would be the fucking Valheim podcast, because literally everyone is writing articles about Valheim, which is really cool, but also it's just fucking excessive. I mean, every time there's a new like hit game, it's just like when Among Us was first popping off, every other article was about Among Us. Same thing with Fall Guys. Now it's Valheim.
You gotta ride those coattails.
I typically just completely avoid 90% of them because they're not news stories for the most part. Like, I could have talked about the birds as boat things, but I was like, I'm not going to. Yeah. But
well, you did.
Valheim seemed amazing. I mean, yeah, I briefly mentioned it, but yeah, this was something I really wanted to talk about, because we often talk about how awesome the community in No Man's Sky is, and it should also be said that these communities exist in other places and they're doing amazing things. So kudos to these amazing people, these operators in this body recovery squad. You're awesome. It is time for us to hop into News Cram. News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we, the hosts of IndiePod and Indie Games Podcast, cram you full of all sorts of indie games news. This week in News Cram, we have one quick news story, one piece of new deals and quick steals, and then a bunch of new stuff. So pretty much as per usual. Our first and only quick news story for today comes by way of IGN, where it's reported that Loop Hero by Four Quarters has sold over 500,000 copies within just a week of launch. I do actually love... Yeah, the way this was reported, though, is so funny. The words that they choose to use, they refuse to write it as 500,000 copies, and instead would always say 500,000. They would always reference 1 million. Every time it's hit a milestone, like last week when I talked about it hitting 250,000, they called it a quarter of a million.
Because it just sounds better. It sounds so much more impressive than the actual numbers. The
million sounds so much more impressive, even though it's not actually 1 million, but it's still really awesome. It's really cool. So kudos to Loop Heroes. Seems really cool. I'll probably end up purchasing it.
That's good.
Now on to some new deals and quick steals. Our first and only deal of this week comes by way of The Gamer, where it's reported that from March 18th through the 25th, you can get action-adventure game The Fall by Over the Moon completely free over on the Epic Game Store. And now on to some new stuff. Our first 5 items of new stuff come by way of Nintendo Life, where it's reported that turn-based tactics game The Dungeon of Nayubuk, The Amulet of Chaos by Artfax Studios is headed to the Nintendo Switch sometime this summer. That Anti-Gravity Racer Ballistic NG by Neogenosis is headed to the Nintendo Switch, yet no release date was given. That atmospheric narrative adventure game Lost Words Beyond the Page by Sketchbook Games and Fourth State is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam on April 6th. That rhythm game A Musical Story by Glee Cheese Studio is headed to the Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, iOS, and PC via Steam sometime this summer. And lastly, that point-and-click adventure game Later Alligator by Small Boo? I don't know, it's got the accent over the U. So I'm going to go with Small Boo. And Pillow Fight is available on the Nintendo Switch. Now over on Twinfinite, where it's reported that the Embarcadero Plaza level is now available in Easy Day Studios Skater XL. That first-person romantic metal detecting game, The Magnificent Truffle Pigs by Thunked, is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam sometime this summer. And that 2D Metroidvania Record of Lodos War D-Lit in Wonder Labyrinth by Why So Serious and Team Ladybug is leaving Steam Early Access on March 27th. Now over on IGN, where it's reported that co-op puzzle game We Were Here Forever by Total Mayhem Games is headed to the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via Steam sometime this year. Now, over on the Gamer, it's reported that open-world action-adventure game Pine by Twirlbound is now available on the PlayStation 4, and to round out the group over on GameSpot, it is reported that Dog Shelter Simulator To the Rescue by Little Rock Games is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam sometime this fall. So, Big Josh Boy, we've been blessed with so many amazing indie game news stories that it's about time we get back to the creators in our next segment, God Bless the Crowd. This is where the biggest of average Josh Boys hops into all sorts of crowdfunding sites, find something awesome for us to talk about, and we do just so. This week we are headed over to Kickstarter to talk about a game called Worshipped, a cultist-themed multiplayer roguelike game. Blindly serve a dreadful god and lead its cult into a fresh multiplayer take on the roguelike genre inspired by Pikmin. The developers initially were looking for $52,100. That was their goal. As of right now, they have $99,377 with 1,976 backers and 24 days left to go. These are Chasing Rat Games, the developers of, I believe it's like something with your friends. It's something weird. They just put out a game. I forget what it was called. They talked about it in the trailer, but I'll figure it out. But Big Josh Boy, of course, to get up on the ground floor of this game, I don't know why I said get up on it, but whatever. You actually have to get up on it. You actually have to invest or pledge $17, but that gets you a digital copy of the game, your name as a Kickstarter backer in the landmark, according to the tier. I don't know what the Kickstarter backer landmark is, but that's cool. Exclusive Discord title and digital wallpapers. Big Josh Boy, this seems like your type of game, so tell me what you like about it.
Before I do, why does it seem like my type of game?
Oh, really? The fact that they just mentioned roguelike and like co-op didn't throw me off. I never thought of anybody else with those.
Really?
Yeah, not even a little bit.
I guess so. No, you have a good point that those are definitely my genres of choice.
Are you going to say that you're not into this game?
I am skeptical.
What?
Not a fan of Pikmin.
Really?
It's not my thing.
Not a fan of Pikmin. I've honestly never played a Pikmin game.
I like them, but I don't know. I don't stick with them. I think it's interesting because you're controlling these people. I think it makes sense. It's like on brand for you being a cult leader. And I think it's cool that you're creating these rituals while doing it. And there seems to be like an element of challenge in between these battles. But like also from this Steam page, I do not know, or Steam page, excuse me, Kickstarter page, I do not know what exactly gameplay is.
It seems like a mix between, like, okay, one, I do have to say before I forget, the game they made is called Struggling. Apparently it's doing pretty well. Okay. But it seems like a mix between using these blood rituals to collect more followers, which then allows you to build up your town, which then allows you to get more followers. I don't exactly know. Yeah. You do make a good point. Like, the gameplay loop isn't well illustrated in this Kickstarter.
This is my biggest problem with this. And I think that the art direction to this, I think the characters, I think the cutesy-ish nature. There is a specific GIF image where there is a bunch of like cultists who are real happy because they're being sacrificed, and then you can see like the imminent doom on two of their faces, but one is super excited about it when they actually see that a person is sacrificed. Like, I love the picture they're painting with this world and with these characters, but I'm not 100% sure on what gameplay is going to be and if I'm going to enjoy it. That's why I say I'm skeptical. I think it has a lot of potential, but I just don't know. It feels very Pikmin-y, puzzle game-ish. That's what I'm getting from it. And they're also saying explore a living world and saying it's very much an exploration game. But it doesn't equate based on what they've shown in these images and trailer pieces. So like, this is another time, and I harp on this all the time, but like, Kickstarter is do you believe in the idea that they're pitching? And I don't know that I have enough to say like, yes, I want to go for it. And $17, I believe, was the amount. Isn't a lot. It's not a crazy ask. But I just don't know if it, heavily focuses too much on that Pikmin side of things, then I don't know if it's really going to be for me. And I also don't understand how co-op works. Like, they mention that the co-op won't impact it, where like it says connect with up to 3 friends online or use matchmaking to start a cult with other players. The game mechanics are very well adapted to multiplayer, but won't take anything away from those who want to enjoy the game solo. Sounds great, but I want to know how. And I don't see anywhere in here, and maybe I'm just not looking hard enough, but like, seems, I mean, I guess they would
want to know how exactly the difficulty would scale.
Yeah, like
I
want to know what that would look like. I think I'm assuming that's kind of what they're showing in this one picture, where there's like a number of different light colored shadow differences under certain players, and I guess they would create symbols together, and maybe that's awesome, but I want to know more, and I'm not seeing enough from this. But like I said, the art direction and like the world that they're building looks awesome. Like, it's very much my style. I think this looks super cool, and I love the ideas behind this. But I kind of want more,
Yeah, it seems like they have on here how to worship, and the gameplay loop seems to be that you grow your cult, you explore, you gain devotion, and you fight for your life in different sorts of like encounters among the world. So that's part of that like living world where like the different factions that they talk about will actually try to fight you. Like, the church isn't going to let you just kind of spread your heresy, and then ultimately you're trying to summon your god and end the world. The thing I found interesting, and one thing I really wish that they would have like talked about a little bit more, is that you get to choose your god at the beginning of the game, seemingly. And I want to know, like, of course they have them illustrated in the Kickstarter page what these gods are, but I would like to know how exactly choosing a different god would affect gameplay. Like, do you have to do different kinds of rituals? Like, I would assume summoning them at the end, like summoning your god, would be a different ritual, but I would like to know what exactly is different. But I feel like currently, for the amount that is on this Kickstarter page, and I think that trailer's really awesome, like everything that you'd get from this Kickstarter, I do think that it would be worthwhile for anybody that like is into this type of game. Like, if anybody's into like a pseudo Pikmin game kind of a deal, like they've been waiting for Pikmin 3 to get ported to Nintendo Switch or whatever, I think that it has enough that I feel like it's a safe bet. Like, this is going to be a good game. But I do see what you're talking about, where you're like, I would like to know what exactly I'm supposed to be doing before I would invest in it, because it is kind of weird. Like, it doesn't seem to have like a linear path to gameplay. Kind of a deal.
And that's not, I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I think that's a good thing, and I think it fits with, the general structure they're trying to build. But like, I need to know more as an investor, because I just don't know that this is really going to be the game for me, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think it is also really cool that the success that they saw from struggling and people playing it on Twitch and like content creators making content has seemingly made them implement this into their next game, because it has this innovative stream support, allowing like streaming and watching streams has become a huge facet of the gaming of worship. And worship will reflect that. A vastly customizable Steam mode paired with meaningful viewer interaction will make it an awesome game for streamers and viewers alike. So I'm wondering if they're going to implement something similar to the like Ring of Pain, where people could make cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be really cool.
I hope so, because I think that is the future of gaming in a lot of ways. Like, obviously you could say other things, but like, I think that is a realm that people need to start thinking about, because it very much is build that community, build that, awareness in general is so hard, and having people like big streamers or even small streamers who then have a smaller community, a bigger community, any type of community, to get invested in a game because they're interacting together inside the game means, a lot of people will want to pick it up. A lot of people will enjoy it. It'll spread word of mouth. Like, this is a huge, hugely important topic that I think, and I hope that more developers will lean into, because it's so cool. Like, Ring of Pain, like the idea of just having the ability to have people draw penises on cards as a stupid joke is like such a good selling point, because like who doesn't like a stupid dick joke, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, I think it's so funny that it has that one moment of building where Chris drew the dick as one of the characters, and it was one of those explodey boys who chases you.
You're like, I don't know what this is.
And I was like, I don't know why this dick is chasing me. And like, you know, it's simple, it's childish, but like it doesn't always have to be that way. But it is a moment that would not have happened if I was just playing the game, right? And it is just an added layer that just increases the enjoyment for different people. And so I love the idea of it. I just wish I knew more.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a big thing for this. Honestly, like, this isn't like, I don't think that this was a game that would be meant for like a person of my taste, but I do think it looks really awesome. I agree. I love the I love the art style. I think it looks awesome. I like the idea of blood rituals. I think that seems really, really cool. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I love the most about it is this really like dark humor, like you talked about. I loved like the stabbing of one, and it's just like willingly accepting it. It's like, stab me,
yeah,
like touch me, Papa, and fucking like stabs it, and the other three are just sitting there like, whoa.
Like, what?
Like, I love that shit. Like, it was so good. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely think I will, I'll wait to see, and maybe this will be something that I end up picking up because I didn't expect to enjoy it, like, or enjoy the concept, similar to like Loop Hero. I'm honestly expecting to pick up that game now because, like, beforehand, I had zero thought of picking it up. There was no way I was going to pick it up because it's just not my type of game, but now I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I'm going to pick up Loop Hero, $15, that's nothing. Let's play this fucking game. Kind of a deal.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Hopefully this ends up being that way.
It's interesting because it's tough to know who to market to or how to market when you create a game, and I think it's why you need to consider different angles, and it's also a reason why I love that we talk about the games that we play, because like just you as a person, like I hope that other people get that same idea. It's why anytime I see card game mechanics in a game, I'll usually be like, yes, this is more Slay the Spire versus no, this isn't. Because a lot of people don't see that line. And it's like, well, these games are actually really good if you just knock out that part of your brain that's like, card games suck.
Yeah.
Which I get it. They suck.
That's very true. You're like, you know, fucking, I'm just diehard card game fan. You know?
Card games are the worst, let me tell you. But anyway, I think, honestly, like to wrap this part up, I think Worship is shaping up to be something that's really cool. I want to keep this on my radar. It's not something I'll back, and I don't need to because they've made it, you know. But if this is something you really are enjoying or want to get into, like you said, that, you know, the Pikmin pseudo, like, check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, that is Worship. It's over on Kickstarter. They still have 24 days left to go at the time of this recording. So by the time you hear this, they're still going to have time. So if it sounds cool, check it out, and make sure to follow us at IndiePod for our like declarations of what we did for God Bless the Crowd, because I always try to make sure I say it beforehand so that people can check it out and choose and kind of like be part of the conversation, what they enjoyed about it versus what we made your shit on or enjoyed about it. So, but I do have to say, great trailer, dude. Fucking great trailer for this one. I loved it. It was like quirky, it was fun in the beginning, and then it moved to a large explanation of what the fuck their game was. And I thought that was awesome. He's like, this is what you're going to do. Granted, there is some stuff that's like left out. We don't know the moment-to-moment gameplay, but there was enough there that I feel like it definitely did enough to let people know what they should be expecting. It gave them that crumb that's going to lead them to the feast later on. So I think it's going to be awesome. But speaking of crumbs, I don't know. That's whatever. Speaking of feasts, I guess. Our first of our listener questions today, because we got to hop into our listener questions, is our last segment, is from Zach Durham. Writes in and says, do you guys have spicy McChicken sandwiches at McDonald's in your areas? Apparently that's a regional thing, and they have just a bland-ass, non-spicy chicken, McChicken in some states. So, Big Josh Boy, do you have a spicy McChicken in Florida?
You know, I was so sure when I first read this that I do, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. And I haven't been to a McDonald's in like a year since this pandemic thing, so I have no idea. McDonald's could be selling like clothes now, and I would just be like, oh, I guess that's a thing. Like, there's so many things out in the real world after this pandemic that I am just so Ignorant too. I have no. I want to say yes, but I don't know. Now that you're saying it's a regional thing, I have no idea. Maybe.
In Idaho, I don't think we do. I know that they have implemented it. They possibly implemented it recently. I mean, granted, depending on who you are, a standard McChicken could be a spicy one because they have like a little bit of spice on it, but it's still fucking dumb, dude.
am so confused when people say stuff like that. When they're like,
no, like this water's spicy.
So spicy. My wife's family, they are just the biggest babies when it comes to spice. It's like there's pepper in it or something, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's so spicy," and I'll be like, "What are you talking about?" Or they know me as the one person who eats a bunch of spicy stuff. So anytime there's like a jalapeno, it's like this dirty thing. They're like, "Oh, Josh, this is for you," and I'm like, it's a jalapeno. It's like the least spicy of the peppers.
Like,
people.
It's mild, motherfucker.
Yeah, they'll always take a bite of something. They'll be like, "This is spicy. You're gonna like it." And I'll eat it, and I'll be like, "There is no spice in this. You are so wrong.
This is spicy. You're gonna like it." You're like, "Man, they put an extra pinch of pepper." That's cool.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think we recently may have gotten the spicy chicken sandwich at McDonald's. Normally, I don't fuck with, well, actually, I typically love spicy stuff. So like, I love the spicy nuggets and everything. Like, I'll go to fucking Wendy's all day long.
Spicy
to get
nuggets
them
are
spicy
great.
nuggies, dude. They're so good. But I very specifically, when I go to McDonald's, I get the McGangbang kind of a deal, where it's like you get the double cheeseburger, you get the McChicken, you just slide that bad boy in between. But I don't believe that we have spicy McChickens, honestly. I don't think. But then again, each McDonald's sometimes has their different menus, and I'm going to be honest, okay? Here's the thing that pisses me off at McDonald's too. And I've harped on this for like 2 years because it's fucking annoying. Okay, so you go to a McDonald's, and I say this, and I feel like it's pretty easy to understand what I'm saying, but apparently it's not. It's like a fucking coded message. I'll be like, "Can I get a double cheeseburger plain in a large meal?" What do you think that means? What do you think I mean by that?
You want cheese, meat, and a bun.
Yeah, and I want, like, if I say a large meal, I mean I want a large fry and I want a large drink.
Yep.
Seems fairly straightforward. But going to McDonald's now, they're like, I'll say that. Can I get a double cheeseburger plain and a large meal? And of course they'll be like, "Okay, do you want cheese on that?" Kind of a deal. And it's like, I enjoy that you asked me that. But also I said a cheeseburger, so it's kind of self-explanatory. And say I want a double hamburger, kind of a deal. Right. But still, I appreciate that you said that. But then they're just like, they do that like, "We don't do meals anymore. So I'm sorry we can't do that." And I'm like, you understand what I fucking said. I want a large drink and I want a large fry. That's it. It's not that hard. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not the dude pinching pennies who's just like, "You know what? My meal this time was 3 cents over what it typically is. What's this all about? Ain't got that true dollar menu no more." I'm like, no, just fucking do what. I hate it every time because now when I go to McDonald's, I just have to say I want a double cheeseburger plain, a large fry, a large drink, and a McChicken plain. I just say that, and then sometimes the person at a different McDonald's than the one who always says they don't have meals at a different McDonald's will be like, "Oh, so you want that in a meal?" And I'm like, "Ooh, fuck you. I'll kill you right now if you fucking say the word meal to me one more time." I'm so sick of it. Because it's I swear there's like 2 McDonald's in Boise that apparently no longer do meals and will not allow you to say the word. It's removed from their fucking vocabulary, dude. It's so annoying.
I guess it's just because I don't care as much and I usually don't order them, but that seems super weird that they would even be like, who cares about the legit, like the linguistics of it, of just like, you know what I fucking mean. Like,
Chase has pointed out to me before that it is possible that they say that because generally the idea of a meal is that you get it cheaper than buying the things by themselves. And I'm like, okay, I get that, but you could just say that to me. Yeah. Like, because the conversation always goes, "Can I get double cheeseburger plain large meal?" And then they go, "We don't do meals anymore." Flat. They just say that. They don't say, like, "We don't do meals anymore, so we can't give it to you for that price, but I can give you a large drink and a large fry." They go out of their way to say nothing other than,
too many words.
we don't do meals anymore. And I'm just like, dude, fuck, you know what I want, bitch.
Yeah,
just fucking put it on the menu. It ain't that hard. Like, I
don't know.
Pisses me off every fucking time. Every time.
You know, you and those weird quirks. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it makes me want to fly off the handle. I'm not even joking. Like, it makes me want to punch myself every time. And it's like, it's not anymore when they say, like, we don't do meals. Like, I'm like, okay, I get that. It's just the ones who say, so you want that in a meal? I'm like, I'm going to fucking deck you.
It sounds like
right now.
It sounds like we found your weakness in the next question.
Dude, I have so many weaknesses, obviously. But, yeah, no idea if we have the spicy chicken sandwich. I don't know. So that would be sweet. I would love to get a spicy McChicken. I might have to go to McDonald's after this to check, but
stay tuned.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna blame my 200-pound body on Zach Durham because he's asking me McDonald's questions. So Captain Bang writes in and says,
Bang,
if
bang.
you were a boss in a Mega Man style game, Mega Man style game, what would your weakness be, and what power would you give the hero? So Big Josh Boy, what would your weakness be, and what power would you give the hero?
So we talked about this, and I struggle with this question because I don't often think about weaknesses or strengths for myself. I specifically don't ever think of strengths for myself. Weakness, like equating it to something that would be interesting in a video game, is a bit the reason why I struggle with this, because I'm like, what would you do to defeat me? And I'm like, well...
Yeah, you don't have as many weird quirks as I do. Like, all you'd have to do to defeat me is, like, fucking, I don't know, like, put a pebble in a sandwich, and I'd just kill myself. Like, I'd be like, nah, dude, I'm done.
Too much.
I mean, to be fair, your weakness and what power you could give people could be the same thing, because Big Josh Boy, we all know he's well endowed, so the weakness would be that his movement is hampered. He's just got too much between the legs. that third leg ain't helping him out. And then,
That's true.
What power do you give them? You give them the power of confidence, because they now get your long dong.
The long dong. Honestly, weakness, probably, I love it, but let's just skip that one.
Let's dial it back.
Let's dial that back a bit.
I'm not trying to brag.
Let's roll the ding dong back. So my weakness, I tend to do, like, I overwhelm myself with stuff. I think I do this in a lot of ways when it comes to work. Like, I am very much the person who, when it comes to going to a job, like, I am not the person who is like, oh, just do nothing at work. Like, and it's cool. Like, I get to take the day off, but I'm at work. I'm getting paid to do nothing. Like, cannot be like that. I hate it. Anytime that happens, I'm super bored. I never know what to do, because I hate doing the idea of, like, I'll just play a game while I'm at work. And I'm like, no, because it feels dirty. But I'm like,
yeah. So
I'll just, like, sit there and kind of do nothing, because I'm like, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. But I'm like, this is awful. So, like, I am always the type of person who's like, give me more, give me more, give me more. Like, I'll take it on. And I always then get to the point where I'm then like, this is too much. And I'll just still force myself to do it. And so, like, I think it would be some form of, like, over exhaustion or something like that. Like, I don't know how to relax or ever not be doing something. So either giving me nothing, which is a weird way to say it, and boring me to death, or giving me too much to do. And this is why it doesn't equate to, like, a game, because it's like, what are you giving me? Like,
what would be the gameplay mechanic of this?
What is the gameplay? What are you, like, throwing me paper assignments or something? And I'm like, oh, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Oh man, like, start fucking, like, jotting shit down.
Yeah. So I don't know. And my power is the ability to be good at dance games. So you get to rip off my legs. And you get to learn the art of dance.
All right. Okay. All right. For me, my weakness would be, there's so many, dude. There's so fucking many. Like, in a gameplay scenario, I probably feel like you'd pop a balloon or something and I'd shit my pants and die. Like, it wouldn't be too hard. Just my, standard phobias.
I can't wait for indie developers to listen to this game and create this.
Yeah, exactly. This would be so good. It's so good. Make an indie pod game.
The game, and it's a balloon popper, and it's just you sitting there, just, like, mind your own business. And every time you pop the balloon, you're just like, whoo! It would basically be, Castle Crashers, when you were like, why is everything pooping? That would just be you.
I'm so scared of so many things. Like the other day, I walked up to my front door, like after work, and I get off at like 7 o'clock, so it was pretty dark. And I walked up to the door, and my wife's keys were in the door. And it freaked me out so much. I grabbed my pocket knife out of my pocket before I opened the door. And I was like, I'm not even joking. I was ready to throw down. And I opened the door and my wife was just sitting there and I was like, God fucking damn it. You scared the shit out of me. She's like, what do you mean? And I was like, your fucking keys are in the door. And she's like, oh. And I was like, when did you get home? And she was like 4 hours ago.
Yeah. What are you doing? Oh my God.
So, I'm just littered with so many fucking fears that any amount, I don't know, you could throw dark, deep water near me. There could be a puddle and I'd be like, I don't know what's there. Or I don't like to stand next to things where I can't see what's underneath of them, you know, because I'm afraid something's going to get me. There's just so many weaknesses that I have. And then a power I feel like I'd have is I don't know. One, I guess oversharing would be one thing. You could just flatter, really throw everybody off in their game. But two, it would definitely be some form of Spartan rage where you just fly off the handle for no fucking reason and just start fucking shit up because yeah, I bottle way too much shit up. I'm just telling you, one more person says the word meal. Or
Isn't it funny?
Or if I have to heal what somebody had for dinner one more time, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm so sick of it.
Isn't it ironic that you have a oversharing problem, but also a bottling things up inside problem?
I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point.
It is.
I also, dude, I both adore and detest the community we've created.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting there, yesterday, I put in the general chat that if I hear one more person tell me what they have for dinner, I'm going to lobotomize myself. 3 people immediately after that were just oh, actually, this is what I had for dinner. And I was like, fuck you. Why would you do that?
It's nice because it's also in some ways I enjoy the fact that you are the butt of the jokes a lot. And it's just people kind of stay clear of me. They do it somewhat, but it's a reasonable amount. But then it's just oh, is that Vaughn? Motherfucking punching bag.
The difference in jokes that we get played on us, it's oh, Josh likes card games. Josh is a thick boy. Josh is fucking cute. You get all of that kind of stuff, and then I get fucking Vaughn is shit house at games and all people actually shitting on me. And I love Philip's just you know what? I give you $5. I give you actually Philip gives us 10 for absolutely no reason. I still don't understand why.
He's just too nice.
And we've had a conversation about it. But he's I give you buddy, I feel I deserve to shit on you a bit. And I'm that's fair.
He's right.
That's 100% fair. That fucking you got me, you know? So yeah, just feel free to shit on me. I don't care.
Dude. I'm loving that old school Nickelodeon shirt.
I'm friends with Chase. I'm used to being shit on. What'd you say?
I said I'm loving that old school Nickelodeon shirt.
Yeah, dude, it's got Reptar on it. Fuck yeah.
I know.
It's the reason I bought this shirt.
I saw Reptar and I think his name is Gerald. Gerald's hair poking up there
from Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold, and I was like,
yeah,
what the hell is
this?
this?
Rocco. I've never seen Real Monsters or
really?
whatever these guys are from. Yeah,
so
I've never
good.
watched it.
Good stuff.
Good stuff, apparently.
Good stuff.
So, speaking of what we're having for dinner, Philip Renshaw writes in and asks us 2 questions. First, what is the cutest baby animal, excluding humans, that exists? I love that he says excluding humans because they've seemingly started to understand that we take some weird-ass backdoor logic to everything, and they're just you know what? They're just going to say technically humans are animals, so I'm going to take that out of the equation. You have to choose an animal. So, Big Josh Boy, what is the cutest baby animal that exists for you?
I mean, there's a lot of them, but I really like red pandas. The little, little tiny red pandas. They don't look like pandas. They're kind of like raccoons, but they're just cute versions of raccoons.
Dude, red pandas just look like raccoons.
Yeah, but they're so cute though.
Do you not think raccoons are cute? I think raccoons are adorable, especially when they're chonk ass raccoons.
No, so that's what I was gonna say the opposite. I was like, raccoons are cute, but most of them are chonk boys, and I was like, I don't like them when they're that way. No, dude,
they're like fucking footballs. Like they're just gigantic. It's awesome, dude.
No.
Raccoons are super cute. They do freak me out though, because it's like, I don't know how many raccoons I could take on in a fight. You know what I mean? Like. I think I could boot like 1, 2, 3, but the second that like we get in double digits, I'm thinking they're gonna like jump on my back from like on top of the house or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much the Dark Souls conversation. It's just they overwhelm you.
Yeah. So, but red pandas is your choice for the cutest baby animal?
I will go with red panda.
See, it's so hard to answer this because like I want to choose something that both helps me with the next question, but also is super cute. Like, what is the cutest to ever exist? I gotta say, like, turtles are pretty high up there. Like, I love me some fucking baby tortoises and turtles. Like, I love turtles in general. I like turtles. But,
I don't know why that got me.
I love me some turtles. I mean, axolotls are also really, really cute. Mm-hmm. Fucking, dude, baby bats. How they always wrap them up like burritos. That shit is so fucking cute. But I have to say, one of the cutest things ever is like baby squid or octopi, where they're like really, really tiny, but they look like octopi. Fucking cute as shit. It's like the cutest fucking shit. Okay.
Oh, they are very tiny. Look at them.
Big Josh boy. Yeah, it was like on the like finger or whatever. Don't know if that's a Photoshop picture. If it's not, like, it'll make this next part even easier. Yeah. Big Josh boy, if you were given $1,000 to kill, cook, and eat the cutest baby animal, could you do it? You monster. We talked about this before we started recording. One, how little $1,000 is. We're like, that's like, what do you mean? This is such a small amount of money to kill a cute animal. And two, you have to kill it, you have to cook it, and you have to eat it.
Yeah. So
Big Josh boy, could you do it?
Here's the thing. No, I would not be able to do it. But you take out kill from the equation, and I'd be able to do it. Like that is the stipulation where like I get it. You know, people who want to fight for animal, you know, cruelty and don't eat meat. Like I understand it. More power to you. But like I don't. I love meat. So I'm going to keep doing it. But if you ask me, like if in a world where I had to do it myself,
you had to butcher your own animals?
Butcher my own animals, I think I would have a much different idea of this. And I think I would then be like, okay, well, maybe I find something else. Because I don't think I could do it. I wouldn't be able to look an animal in the eyes and be like, chop! Like there's no fucking way I could live with myself with that. So like the kill part, no fucking way. But the cook and eat, if it was like, well, this red panda's dead, and like it's just gonna waste, you know, like someone's got to eat it. Although I also, as well eat it. Yeah, I also don't know if that would be a good thing to eat though, because I don't study red pandas or like
could be real gamey,
right? Yeah, like if you should ever eat them, but like I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I mean, this one, I love the back and forth that happened in our Discord when this question was asked. That, like, Phil asked this, and Chase was just like, you'd have to give Vaughn $10,000 to even leave the house. And I was like, that's actually fairly true, dude. I barely leave. Like, I'm being given the option to work from home, and I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I'm never going to leave my apartment. Yeah. It's never, like, I'm going to develop agoraphobia now. It's just going to happen. But here's the thing. If I had, like, a baby octopus and it was, like, the tiny one that was just on my finger and shit, $1,000. And, yeah, right now, I need the money to buy a house. Just fucking... just, like, easily slurp it down. The thing is, like, if I had to cook it, I feel like that would just make it... Like, it wouldn't necessarily make it worse because it would just be like, I fucking, like, just put it on a plate in the microwave. And, like, two birds, dude. I just put it in a plate, fucking microwave that bitch. And then just, like, it's just, like, that dies. And then I just fucking, just, like, I would swallow it like a pill. You know what I mean?
I love that your go-to for cook is, like, I'll just put it in the microwave.
Yeah, dude, I'm not a fucking chef. I don't know how the oven works. I don't know what the broil setting does on my oven. I'm being serious. The only time I've ever heard the word broil is in Burger King commercials when they talk about flame broil burgers. I don't know how to broil anything. I don't know what that function is even on my oven for. I'm trying to bake shit, not broil it. What the fuck does that even mean? So yeah, I'm gonna microwave this baby octopus and I'm gonna pop it like a pill. I'm gonna drink a little bit of water and then I'm gonna go cash in my $1,000 from the Wombat Emperor of Australia. I'm so terrified that I'm gonna get a baby squid in the mail, by the way, now. I'm so fucking terrified. Like, it's gonna be like a baby squid and an envelope with $1,000 and it's just like, you gonna do it?
Yeah. I mean, he would be smart to put it on a card that he then loads afterwards.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Because otherwise, you just have $1,000.
Yeah, thanks, Big Josh Boy, for. I mean, maybe he would ask for video evidence. There's the whole movement of no video, no proof. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So,
yeah,
like maybe he's like, I want to watch you eat it.
Have a video podcast. You'd have to do it on the air.
Yeah. Like I would have like a microwave like on my desk, and I just pop it in. Do the 30 seconds, and then we just hear it go like pa. And, and then I just fucking scoop it up and eat it like a jelly.
Disgusting.
So I don't even like jelly, actually. That's disgusting.
Anyway.
Gross. That's the gross part of that, is that it would be jelly. But the next question is from Mr. Chris Penwell. Just like a nice little easy one. Chris writes in and says, do you drink tea? What is your favorite kind? Big Josh Boy, do you drink tea and what's your favorite kind?
I do. Green tea.
Ah, okay. Just strictly green tea? You don't drink like Earl Grey or any of that weird shit you could get at Tivana?
I mean, I like them, but I usually just go back to like a green tea. Tazo, I don't know if it's Tazo or Tazoo or whatever the hell they're called. Tazo has one that's like a green tea combination of a couple of different herbs. It's called Zen, which doesn't mean anything, but I enjoy that one.
Which doesn't mean anything.
but I enjoy it. I'm not really crazy like big onto tea though. I enjoy a cup every now and then, and generally I'm more of an iced tea person, which I think will probably be like a ooh to Chris, but like I don't know. I just generally like iced drinks better than hot, in like no matter what it is. So
okay, all right, yeah. I don't really drink tea. I should drink more since my job requires me to talk all day and like I do the content. I've heard that like it actually helps with your throat if you drink like green tea with honey in it.
Can we take
kind of a deal? So
can we take a quick pause? Did you just say because I do the content? Were you talking about this podcast? Was that a sentence for this podcast? That might have
been what I said. Yeah, that might have been.
Are we the content?
Well, I do this podcast. I got Go Beyond. I got the streams. I got the Eldar podcast. It's like
you're so busy.
It's a decent bit. I talk a lot.
How do you get all these podcasts, man? I'm trying to diversify, and nobody wants me. So
just make shit.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't want to make shit. I just want a guest.
Yeah, if you want another podcast, just make it, bro.
Nah,
just fucking start talking about something that everybody else is already talking about.
I just want a guest so we can diversify and blow the podcast up and be super famous or whatever it's called. Actually, I don't know that I want that, but whatever.
Yeah, we're like constantly talking about how we don't have time. Yeah. Like Phil called me out like last week because I was like, I don't have any time, but I'm also going to start a website.
Yeah. Fuck it. It's just how it goes.
And our last question comes from Hackzard Gaming. I hope I said that correctly. I probably didn't. I'm almost 100% sure I didn't. Hey, Hacks here. I'm new to the podcast, and Vaughn, dear God, use a thick boy. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I have to say, the voice doesn't really match, but then again, I'm in the same boat. Imagine an African-American guy who's 6'3", and that's the most stereotypical nerd in the world. But, oh well. I was wondering what was your most embarrassing moment with gaming. Mine was, I was looking for an indie game and I couldn't find it, so my friend had it and he told me he put it in a folder. I didn't realize the name until I got to college. I showed my friends and the name was Asian Ass Parade 6. Again, it wasn't porn. It was just a bunch of indie games I wanted, but I had to open it and show people it was games and not porn.
I love it. That is That is a great story. I don't have anything that's that good.
You just got, bro. You got by your friends.
Yeah, for real. I don't know that I have anything like that. I have an embarrassing story of when I was a chonky boy, and I grew up both in like the elementary realm and the earlier years of middle school realm where I was pretty fat. And so I just have kind of a fat joke that comes with this. Okay. So back in the Pokemon years, I played, it was Red and Blue. I was big into it. I had a friend who was into it. I forget what happened. We were playing it. It doesn't even really relate, but like something happened where I was like, haha, I got XYZ and he didn't. And I started jumping around and I was running and I was like, whatever, I'm a stupid kid saying something, fuck you. And his retort back was like, I kind of got winded from doing it because I was fat and chunky. And he was like, really? Are you already out of breath from that? And I was like, no. But then I was like, kind of like had to like calm the breathing down.
You're taking some deep breaths. You're like, no.
But
you're like, this is just happens when I get excited. It's anxiety. Leave me alone.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the most embarrassing. I like that I could think of anyway. Like nothing comes to mind. But that's probably one of the bigger moments where I was like, man, I need to lose weight.
Yeah, I can't. I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't know if there's actually an embarrassing game moment that I have. Like, because that would assume that I'm embarrassed by it. Like, I don't know. Like, when I bought Princess and Conquests, and I was, like, watching the trailer for it, and my wife asked me what I was doing, and I said, I'm buying a hentai game, and she didn't believe me, and then I was like, come fucking look, and I showed her the video. Zero embarrassment. I've recommended people look up Princess and Conquest. Like, I don't give a fuck. I can't think of one thing that, like, I necessarily got super embarrassed about. Like, I do get embarrassed about things often, but I can't say that any of them are attached to gaming necessarily.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like all of us got embarrassed when we were we were in a keyboarding class and we fucking were playing Balloon Tower Defense and your teacher was like, knock it off. And you're just like, what? And they're like, I can fucking see you, dumbass. Like, you all get kind of embarrassed by that, but I don't know if I've ever had a moment where I was actually embarrassed due to gaming in any way. I don't know. I'm shit at games. So like, I've kind of come to terms with that.
It's always an embarrassment.
Yeah. It's like if you're always embarrassed, you're never embarrassed. So it's not really a problem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I like it.
I can't say I really have. Yeah, a moment where I was embarrassed by gaming.
Something to think about.
Yeah, I guess like there's one moment that I wasn't embarrassed by. I actually find it really hilarious, but it was just like a lot like when I first started dating my girlfriend or my now wife, but when she was my girlfriend, we had been dating for like I like how I say first started dating. We've been together for 10 years, but like this is like 4 years in, and Chase, Forrest, and I we were all playing Elder Scrolls Online. And I've told this story before, but we were killing something that's called a bull netch, and it looks like a squid. Mm-hmm. And like Forrest and Chase just kept saying, "You guys made me eek," and it really pissed Morgan off to the point where she like left, like she was done. She was really annoyed because they kept saying it. She was like, "Shut the fuck up." But yeah, I can't think of a time that I've ever been like legitimately embarrassed due to gaming.
I don't know. Well, I guess if you got a week to think, maybe next week we'll come back and give them something different.
Yeah, I wish I had an Asian ass parade story. Like that would have been great.
That is a good story. Yeah, I've never had an Asian ass parade.
I mean, now I feel like I got to do that to somebody.
It's
like all the files I send of like DRM free games or whatever to my fucking nephew, just like fucking title all of them like Asian ass porn kind of a deal. Mm-hmm. Like just really lean into it. I don't know.
I think that's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. You know, why not fucking because Morgan showed me this joke the other day. It was like you become a parent because you wanted to ruin another life kind of a deal. It was essentially like cycle. Because you didn't ruin your own life enough.
Right.
So you had to do it in somebody else's. I'm like, man, I'm an uncle right now. Like I could easily do that. Yeah. Like I could ruin other people's lives. It'd be great.
That's what it's all about.
I just scar my nephew for life. Like it'd be awesome. Whatever, dude.
If you haven't had an Asian ass parade, It's not a real life. You know what I'm saying?
That is the end of this episode. Thanks everyone so much for listening. If you would like to chat with us outside the show, you could do so in a bunch of different ways. You can, of course, follow us at IndiePod on Twitter for notifications of when the episodes go live. We talk about like indie games news and so much more, so make sure to follow us at IndiePod. You can follow me, Vaughn, at Hyde Legion, that's HYDELEGION, over on Twitter for notifications of when I go live on Twitch. Just the random bullshit that I say or anything else. I don't know. I retweet a lot of art because I really like it.
Dope.
You can follow the Big Josh Boy at _George90 over on Twitch on Twitch, on Twitter, and the _George on Twitch. That is, I believe, all we have to shout out, other than, of course, got to go back over our fun little bit of housekeeping. We've got the Adham Jabir, the Headworms developer interview, of course, going live one day after for patrons, 2 days before for plebes. That's every Wednesday. We have a new developer interview, so check out that one. We've got the IndiePod store. Head over, get some cheap t-shirts and stickers before we eventually put on some new merch, probably I would say like midway to the end of next month, depending on how long a commission takes. Head over to the IndiePod YouTube channel, subscribe, like, click the bell, I don't know, whatever. Watch these podcast episodes. Watch Josh's Everhood and Omori reviews. They're fantastic. And please leave us reviews on any sort of listening platform that you could do so. Specifically, iTunes helps us out a bunch. Yeah. Lastly, thank you so much to our amazing patrons at the $3 tier or higher. That's Will C, Mixmatosis, a.k.a. Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, Chris Penwell, always drinking tea, big boy, Josh Nichols from That There Active Quest, that's Active Josh, and Sam Fillion from Canada. You're all amazing. Thank everyone so much for being patrons. Thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.